Hello, Superstar. Welcome back. I'm Michelle Villalobos here at Superstar Summit 2022. I'm very excited because Amy Lemire is here next to me. She's a friend, a colleague, a client, a coach, and she helps entrepreneurs and salespeople to develop their sales confidence and their sales skills. And so she'll be presenting later today on our main stage. And I wanted to bring her in here just to go a little deeper, learn a little bit more about her before we see her presentation later. So Amy, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here.
Yay, it's wonderful to have you. All right, so tell us a little bit about, you have a unique approach to sales. Everybody wants to grow their sales. Everybody wants to have more, I think, consistency in sales. How do you approach that different than other people?
That's a great question, Michelle. I think one of the elements that is often missing from traditional sales training is mindset.
Yeah.
You know, as an example, when I first went into sales, it was all about learn your product, know the competition, know how to close, know how to negotiate, but there was never any discussion about the mindset, and I call that whole concept sales confidence.
Okay. All right, so what is sales confidence? What goes into it? What or mindset? What are we talking about? Give us some details, some examples.
So there's 6 habits I focus on, and to narrow it down, I think the most important that I focus on is number 1, the self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem. Is an example, we might need to make cold calls and we might start going through negative self-talk.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we really want to think about what makes us better, unique, and maybe even different than our competitors who are making the same phone calls. And so that's one thing I focus on. Another thing I focus on is being in service. The number 1 reason I got into sales is that I love to serve and I love to work with people. And as long as I keep that in mind, everything falls into place.
I love that because sales is so often maligned as like pushy or sleazy or inauthentic. And when you say sales is service or it's about service, that to me really elevates the entire industry or the entire endeavor of sales, right?
Yes. So one of the first concepts I focus on in my program is, it sounds really simple, but it's called connecting with people.
Okay.
And I think what gives sales professionals a bad rap is that we go in and we show up and we throw up. We put our products on the table, our services, we talk about ourselves, but what we do with connecting with people is a principle called intrinsic validation.
Okay.
And that's when I am focused, I'm other focused. Okay. I want to learn everything about you. I want to understand your needs. I want to understand who you are. I want to understand how I can serve you. Yeah. And that is my number 1 focus, not me or my products or services.
Well, and I like what you're saying in even a deeper way, because I know that I've heard people say, okay, ask questions and be interested, but it often feels a little staged or a little fake. And what you're saying is, no, do it for real. Like actually be mindful, be careful, be caring, you know, really want to discover. And when you do that, you'll naturally be able to serve the other person better.
Correct. Exactly. I agree with what you just said. And I think what often gets in the way also is, I call this the backpack of bricks. We come into those sales meetings with thinking about what happened in the past, thinking about a bad sales appointment, thinking about losing a sale, thinking about something that happened 10 years ago in our life. And what I help people do is release that and find the gifts in all those events. Because even with a lost sale, and trust me, I have had a lot of those in my career, there's always something I can learn. What did I do well? What would I do different next time? And what is next? Those are the 3 questions I always ask myself. So that keeps you from carrying that backpack that weighs us down.
Let it go.
Yes.
All right, Amy. So how do you deliver your work? Do you have programs? Do you have books? Like, how do people learn about sales confidence code and the way that you approach sales?
So the way that I work, Michelle, is I take a couple different approaches. Number 1, first and foremost, I invite people to take an assessment called Habit Finder, which will help us see where you stand with 6 key thought habits. The second thing I do is I do individual work one-on-one. I do work in small groups. I'm preparing for my first retreat in November, as a matter of fact. I can't wait. But I also still do a lot of work in the corporate sector. So I do a lot of work with sales teams, and I work with them on mindset and some of the fundamental skills to be successful in selling.
Well, I mean, if you have a great mindset and you have there's not a ton of skills involved in sales, right? Like, I mean, there are many, but it's like the fundamentals of basketball. You learn how to dribble, you learn how to shoot, you got to do free throws, and you're going to improve the game. And the mindset can really add so much fuel to the fire, correct?
Absolutely. And I think for my life story, going back many years when I was younger, one of the first books my grandmother gave me after a near-death experience when I was 9, it was called Determination. It was a story of Helen Keller. And to this day, I believe determination and courage are the number 1 and 2 secret sauces of being successful in selling. Those are absolute musts. And that's what carried me through over the years, over the 20 plus years I was a frontline seller, was those 2 words.
Beautiful. I'm so excited to see your presentation today. I want to make sure I asked you everything I wanted to ask you. One more question.
Sure.
Amy, what's a trend that you're seeing in the industry right now in sales?
Michelle, there is a huge trend right now called the Great Resignation. And I wish I could say it was a great, happy trend, but it's reality. It's where we are right now. I think we all know after the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. And one of the biggest things that's changed is that people are leaving their jobs in droves. And one of the things I'll talk about today, as a matter of fact, is that a year ago, turnover was 3% on sales teams. Now it's 31%. So with that being said,
that's a lot.
It's a lot. So what I'm seeing with some of the clients I work with is that they're continuing to want to focus on product and just work harder and just do more. But what I'm telling them to do with my work is to take a step back. Let's focus on the inner game of selling.
Yes.
Let's get back to the basics. Again, focusing on other people, connecting, confidence, other elements. Service. Yeah, I was going to say service. And then the other big one I haven't mentioned is structure, which is self-discipline. So, am I setting myself up to win weekly? Am I setting my goals? Am I achieving my goals? And most often, I think salespeople fail because they don't do the work.
Well, and I think you brought something up because I saw a little bit of your presentation yesterday. You talked about accountability as being so important, and I've found that to be true in my own business, and I know you found that to be true from the story you told. So I imagine that's a big thing that you help people figure out, how to be accountable, right?
Yes, it's interesting because the first position I ever had in sales was selling payroll, and it was like selling copiers. If anyone's never done that, it's 100% cold calling. And I remember to this day that the number 1 element they taught us was activity and accountability. They said, a salesperson is what they do best day in and day out. So each day you've got to take those little steps. You've got to make the phone calls. And then with that, it's accountability. So the days I don't want to do it, I still do it, or I get a coach or someone who can get me through that, which is where I come in also.
I was going to say, speaking of which, that's the work you do. So how can people connect with you if they want to up-level their sales confidence and their sales outcomes?
So the best way to get in touch with me is my website, which is aimwithamy.com. Okay. And on that website, you can also find out what the sales confidence code is and take an assessment to see if your thoughts are supporting or sabotaging your sales success.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Michelle.